welcome back to Your Path to Career Success, the podcast that's your compass in navigating the winding roads of your professional journey. I'm Catherine, aka The Career Owl, and today we're wrapping up Season 4 with a crucial topic, breaking barriers, how to communicate across cultures. As we head into our break, I'm thrilled to explore how effective cross-cultural communication can transform your career and personal interactions. Before we dive in, a quick reminder that Season 5 will start on October the 16th and will be especially important for those of you moving into or currently in leadership roles. I've lined up some insightful content designed to elevate your leadership skills and help you navigate the complexities of leading diverse teams. So stay tuned and subscribe to ensure you don't miss out on the valuable strategies and discussions coming your way in Season 5. In today's globalised world, the ability to communicate effectively across cultures is a critical skill that transcends industries and professions. As businesses become more interconnected and diverse, you're likely to collaborate with colleagues, clients, or partners in various cultural backgrounds, each bringing their own unique perspectives, communication styles, and expectations. Whether you're leading international teams, negotiating deals across board, or simply interacting with people from different cultures in your daily life, mastering cross-cultural communication allows you to navigate these differences with sensitivity and respect. Beyond the workplace, it fosters greater personal growth by broadening your worldview and developing your empathy and adaptability. Cross-cultural communication is not just about language proficiency. It's about understanding cultural nuances, respecting different approaches to problem solving, and building meaningful relationships across boundaries. By developing these skills, you can enhance collaboration, prevent misunderstandings, and create an inclusive environment where everyone feels heard and valued. Ultimately, this mastery leads to more productive interactions, stronger professional and personal connections, and a deeper sense of cultural appreciation. But first, grab your favourite beverage, cozy up, and let's embark on this enriching journey together. So where do we start? Cultural differences in communication often manifest in subtle ways, but their impact can be profound, influencing how messages are delivered, received, and interpreted. To navigate these nuances effectively, it's essential to begin by identifying and understanding the cultural norms, values, and expectations of the people or teams you frequently interact with. Each culture has its own approach to communication, rooted in historical, social, and even geographical influences. Taking the time to research these factors will help you anticipate how best to communicate with your audience. For example, in cultures like Germany, Switzerland, and Scandinavia, directness and efficiency are highly prized. People tend to value clear, straightforward communication that cuts to the chase, focusing on logic and facts. Conversations often have little room for ambiguity, and getting directly to the point is seen as a sign of respect for others' time. In contrast, cultures such as Japan, China, and many parts of Southeast Asia emphasise indirect communication. Here, much of the message may be implied rather than explicitly stated, and reading between the lines is critical. Politeness and avoiding confrontation are prioritised, with indirectness seen as a way to maintain harmony and avoid embarrassing or offending others. Understanding these differences enables you to adjust your communication style to fit the context. If you're engaging with someone from a culture that values directness, you might want to be concise and transparent in your communication, while still being respectful. On the other hand, if you're dealing with a culture that favours more nuanced, indirect exchanges, being overly blunt could come across as rude or abrasive. In these cases, it's important to take a more thoughtful, nuanced approach, paying attention to tone, body language, and non-verbal signals that may carry as much weight as spoken words. Here's a couple of tips. Learning the formalities around greetings, the appropriate use of titles, and even the tone of emails or calls can make a significant difference. Additionally, when communicating in writing, be mindful of whether a culture places more emphasis on the context surrounding the message, high context cultures like Japan and India, or the message itself, low context cultures like the US and Germany. This awareness allows you to craft your communication in a way that resonates with the recipient, making interactions smoother and more effective. Consider using resources such as Hofstede's Cultural Dimensions Theory, or taking an online cultural awareness course to deepen your understanding. Incorporating small changes, like how you phrase feedback or adjust your tone, can make interactions smoother and help avoid misunderstandings. Active listening goes beyond simply hearing the words being spoken. It's about fully engaging the speaker to understand their message, intent, and emotions. This requires concentration, empathy, and a willingness to suspend judgment. In cross-cultural communication, active listening becomes even more vital because cultural differences can shape how messages are conveyed and interpreted, especially through non-verbal cues such as facial expressions, gestures, eye contact, and even silence. For example, in some Western cultures, particularly in the US and parts of Europe, constant verbal feedback like nodding, affirming responses, or even interjections are often seen as signs of engagement and understanding. In contrast, in many Asian cultures, silence can be a crucial part of communication, signifying thoughtfulness and respect. In these cultures, jumping in too quickly during pauses can be perceived as impatience or a lack of consideration. Therefore, an important aspect of active learning is learning to gauge when silence is a natural part of the conversation, allowing the speaker space to reflect or organise their thoughts without feeling pressured to fill the gap. To actively listen in a way that transcends cultural boundaries, it's essential to pay attention to both the words and the unspoken messages. Observe the speaker's body language. Does their posture suggest openness or hesitance? Are there cultural indicators like avoiding direct eye contact that signal respect or deference rather than disengagement? Similarly, be mindful of your own non-verbal communication. Maintaining appropriate eye contact, nodding at the right moments, and offering small gestures of acknowledgement can encourage a speaker to continue sharing and signal that you're genuinely engaged. A quick tip: to enhance active listening, try paraphrasing or summarising what the speaker has said to ensure you understand their message correctly. This could sound like, if I understand correctly, you're saying that, or it sounds like you're concerned about. This not only confirms comprehension, but also shows that you value their perspective enough to seek clarity. Asking open-ended questions like, could you tell me more about that? Also invites the speaker to elaborate on their thoughts, which can be especially useful in cultures where communication tends to be more indirect. Another key to active listening is managing your internal responses. When faced with cultural differences, it's easy to rush to judgment or interpret something through the lens of your own culture. Instead, approach each conversation with an open mind, focusing on understanding rather than reacting. By doing so, you're not only showing respect for the speaker's perspective, but also fostering an environment where cross-cultural exchanges can thrive, leading to more meaningful and productive conversations. So as a reminder, use phrases like, just to clarify you mean, or I hear you're saying, to confirm you're on the same page. Show engagement by nodding or maintaining eye contact if culturally appropriate, and avoiding distractions like checking your phone during conversations. When language barriers are present, even small miscommunications can turn into larger, more complex issues that may hinder collaboration or damage relationships. One of the most effective ways to minimise these challenges is to simplify your language. While it's easy to rely on familiar idioms, slang, or regional specific expressions in conversation, these may not be universally understood by people from different linguistic or cultural backgrounds. Phrases like, it's raining cats and dogs, or hit the ground running, may leave non-native speakers confused, even if they have a strong command of the language. Instead, focus on using clear, straightforward language that conveys your message without relying on cultural references or abstract expressions. Additionally, patience is crucial when communicating across language barriers, especially individuals who may be speaking a second or third language. It's important to acknowledge the effort that non-native speakers are making to communicate and to offer them the space and time to express their thoughts. If you notice hesitation or a struggle to find the right words, be supportive rather than rushing the conversation. Allowing for longer pauses or asking gentle, clarifying questions can help alleviate pressure and ensure that everyone is on the same page. For example, rather than saying, can you speed things up, you might ask, would you like a moment to gather your thoughts? Encouraging written communication is another effective strategy when dealing with language barriers. For those who find it easier to communicate in writing, giving the option to articulate their ideas via email, chat, or shared documents can provide clarity. Written communication allows the individual to take their time, think carefully about how to phrase their message, and use translation tools if needed. This can reduce the chances of miscommunication and create a more comfortable environment for everyone involved. Offering this option can be helpful in technical or detailed discussions where precision is essential, as it allows both parties to refer back to the written record if there is any confusion later. A quick tip: when working with international teams or clients, consider learning a few basic phrases in their native language. Even a simple hello, thank you, or goodbye can go a long way in showing respect and building rapport. Similarly, using translation tools or services where appropriate can help bridge gaps. Just be mindful that machine translations aren't always perfect, so it's still important to confirm understanding when using them. You could say, let me know if this translation doesn't capture your meaning correctly, which shows you're willing to accommodate and clarify as needed. Another essential aspect of navigating language barriers is the use of non-verbal communication. Body language, gestures, facial expressions, and tone of voice often play an even larger role when verbal communication is limited. While these non-verbal cues can sometimes differ across cultures, they can also act as a universal means of understanding intent. For instance, maintaining a friendly tone, smiling, or using hand gestures to illustrate key points can complement verbal communication and help convey messages when language alone isn't sufficient. Being an empathetic and adaptive communicator is key to overcoming language barriers. Put yourself in the other person's shoes and think about how you would want someone to interact with you if you were in their position. Would you appreciate a slower pace? Would you feel more comfortable if certain terms are explained in simpler terms? By being considerate and making small adjustments, you can create an environment where both parties feel understood and valued, even when language differences exist. Ultimately, patience, simplicity, and a willingness to accommodate can prevent small misunderstandings from escalating into larger issues, ensuring smoother and more effective communication across language barriers. Remember to use visual aids, diagrams, or hand gestures to complement your words and help convey meaning. Additionally, encourage the use of translation tools or apps for complex terms and ideas. Being aware that different cultures might have different interpretations of certain words and phrases is essential, so ask clarifying questions and make sure there's a mutual understanding. No single communication style works universally across all cultural contexts, making adaptability a key skill in cross-cultural communication. Each culture has its own set of expectations, values, and norms that influence how people interact, both professionally and socially. To be an effective communicator in a global environment, you need to be aware of these cultural distinctions and tailor your communication style to fit the specific context. In cultures that place a high value on hierarchy and respect for authority, such as South Korea, India, or many parts of the Middle East, interactions tend to be more formal and deferential, particularly when dealing with senior colleagues or leaders. In these settings, addressing people by their formal titles and using polite, respectful language is crucial to demonstrating cultural sensitivity. For example, in South Korea, addressing someone by their full job title, followed by their surname, is expected when speaking to senior colleagues. Similarly, in India, hierarchy plays an important role in business settings. Maintaining a respectful tone towards senior figures is seen as a sign of professionalism and respect. In these hierarchical cultures, it's also important to be mindful of non-verbal communication, as things like posture, eye contact, and gestures convey deference or respect. For instance, in Japan, bowing is a common form of greeting, and the depth of the bow often indicates the level of respect being shown. Even in virtual communication, being conscious of tone, formality in email language, and the pacing of conversations can reflect an understanding of hierarchical values. On the other hand, in more non-hierarchical cultures like the Netherlands, Sweden, or Australia, the emphasis is on equality and openness. In these environments, communication is typically more informal, and everyone's input is valued equally, regardless of their position or title. For example, in the Netherlands, there is little emphasis on formal titles, and it's common for employees to address their managers by their first names, encouraging a more collaborative and open atmosphere. Communication style tends to be direct, with individuals encouraged to voice their opinions, challenge ideas, and engage in constructive debate without concern for rank or status. In such cultures, adapting your communication style means embracing informality and openness. You can engage in more casual conversations, express your views candidly, and expect others to do the same, regardless of their role within the organisation. This doesn't mean abandoning professionalism, but rather adjusting to a cultural norm where mutual respect is shown by valuing each person's contribution and fostering a sense of shared ownership and responsibility. So, a quick tip. Before entering a new cultural environment, it's helpful to research the specific cultural communication norms you may encounter. For example, reading about a country's business etiquette or speaking with colleagues who have experience working in that culture can provide valuable insights. Understanding the expectation for things like how decisions are made, how feedback is given, or even how meetings are run can help you avoid potential missteps and build stronger professional relationships. In addition to hierarchy and egotism, you may also encounter differences in how cultures approach conflict and decision-making. In more hierarchical cultures, decision-making may be slower, as it typically rests with senior leaders. Team members may not feel comfortable voicing dissent or challenging ideas, as doing so could be seen as disrespectful. In contrast, in egalitarian cultures, decision-making tends to be more collaborative. An open debate or disagreement is viewed as a healthy part of the process. Adapting your communication style in these contexts means recognizing when to take a more cautious, deferential approach versus when to engage openly and share your thoughts freely. In hierarchical settings, showing respect by allowing senior leaders to make the final decisions will help you build trust and credibility. Conversely, in egalitarian environments, withholding your input might be seen as a lack of engagement or initiative. By being flexible in how you communicate based on the cultural context you find yourself in, you not only avoid misunderstandings but also demonstrate cultural awareness and respect. This adaptability can foster stronger, more productive relationships and help you build a reputation as someone who is effective in a wide range of international and multicultural settings. Observe how others in the culture communicate and try to match their style, whether that means using a formal tone, providing more context, or simplifying instructions. Flexibility and attentiveness to the needs of your audience can make your message more impactful. Trust is the foundation of successful cross-cultural communication, and building it, especially in a multicultural environment, requires patience, cultural awareness, and a genuine commitment to understanding others. Establishing trust isn't something that happens overnight. It takes time and consistent effort. One of the most effective ways to build trust in cross-cultural settings is by demonstrating cultural sensitivity. This can be as simple as learning about and participating in local customs or showing respect for cultural traditions that are important to the people you're interacting with. For example, if you're working with colleagues in the Middle East, understanding the significance of greetings and hospitality can go a long way. Taking the time to engage in rituals like exchanging pleasantries over tea or coffee before discussing business can demonstrate that you respect their cultural norms. Similarly, in many Asian cultures, respecting hierarchical structures using formal titles or offering a small gesture like a bow or presenting a business card with two hands can show that you're knowledgeable and respectful of their traditions. In cultures that prioritise relationships over tasks, such as many countries in Latin America, trust is often built through personal connections, not just professional competence. In these contexts, jumping straight into business discussions may come across as cold or impersonal. Instead, engaging in small talk is an important step in building rapport. Ask about personal matters such as family, health, or recent holidays to show that you're interested in the individual, not just the work that they bring to the table. Taking this time to establish a personal connection signals that you value the relationships, which is key to building trust in these cultures. For instance, in Brazil, it's common for meetings to start with light conversation about family or recent events before transitioning to business. If you skip this step, you may be seen as someone who is only interested in the transaction and not in developing a meaningful relationship. Similarly, in Mexico, it's important to inquire about the well-being of your colleagues and their loved ones as a gesture of warmth and care. Demonstrating this level of engagement shows that you're committed to more than just business outcomes and are willing to invest in long-term relationships. In contrast, cultures that value task-oriented communication, such as in Germany or the United States, may prefer a more direct and focused approach to business dealings. However, even in these environments, building trust remains essential, though it might hinge more on demonstrating competence, reliability, and professionalism rather than personal connection. While personal rapport might not be central in these cultures, showing respect for their work ethic, being punctual, and delivering on your promises are key ways to earn trust. So, a quick tip. When entering a new cultural environment, consider researching common customs and norms beforehand. Understanding small gestures such as bringing a gift when visiting someone's home in Japan or using polite forms of address in France can demonstrate that you're culturally aware and respectful. Even a small effort in learning these customs can break down barriers and open doors to stronger relationships. Trust also involves being mindful of how conflict is handled across different cultures. In some cultures, trust is built by being direct and transparent, even when dealing with disagreements. For example, in Scandinavian countries, straightforwardness and honesty are highly valued, and people appreciate it when issues are addressed head-on. Conversely, in cultures that prioritise harmony and face-saving, such as China or Thailand, being overly direct might damage trust rather than build it. In these settings, addressing issues diplomatically and avoiding public confrontations can help maintain trust while still resolving conflicts. Showing cultural sensitivity can also mean taking the time to learn about, respect significant culture or religious practices. For example, if you're working with colleagues in the Middle East during Ramadan, recognising their fasting practices and adjusting meeting schedules to accommodate their energy levels shows respect for their tradition. Similarly, being aware of important holidays like the Chinese New Year or Diwali and offering your best wishes during these times demonstrates cultural empathy, furthering deepening trust. Wherever possible, show an openness to learning. If you're unsure about certain customs or practices, don't be afraid to ask respectfully. People often appreciate when someone takes an interest in their culture, as it provides an opportunity to build rapport through shared learning. Ultimately, trust building in cross-cultural environments is about being both respectful and adaptable. Whether it's engaging in personal conversation, respecting local customs, or showing reliability and professionalism, each action signals that you're invested in understanding and valuing the cultural context of the people you're interacting with. This culture sensitivity, paired with consistency and reliability, forms the foundation for long-lasting, trust-filled relationships across cultures. Be mindful of how you express yourself. For example, some cultures may interpret a lack of eye contact as dishonesty, while in others it could be a sign of respect. The key is to build rapport slowly, listen actively, and show empathy by adapting to their ways of building connections. Misunderstandings are an inevitable part of cross-cultural communication, and how you respond to them can make all the difference in maintaining positive relationships and ensuring effective collaboration. These moments provide opportunities for growth, both for yourself and for the people you're interacting with. When the misunderstanding occurs, it's essential to approach the situation with an open mind and a willingness to learn, rather than let it become a roadblock to progress. One of the first steps in handling misunderstandings is to remain calm and composed. It's easy to feel frustrated or defensive when communication breaks down, especially if it's affecting the flow of a project or a relationship. However, reacting emotionally or defensively can escalate the situation and potentially damage the relationship further. Instead, take a step back and remind yourself that misunderstandings are normal in cross-cultural exchanges. What might seem obvious to you may be interpreted differently by someone from another cultural background. Recognizing this can help you stay patient and empathetic during these moments. Humility plays a key role in managing misunderstandings. If the issue stems from something you said or did that was misinterpreted, be ready to apologise and take responsibility, even if it wasn't intentional. And sincere apology can diffuse tension and show the other person that you respect their perspective and are committed to resolving the issue. This isn't about assigning blame, but rather about acknowledging that communication is a two-way street and that both parties have a role in ensuring clarity. For example, if you've used an expression that doesn't translate well across cultures, you might find that your colleague feels confused or even offended. In this case, apologising for the confusion and offering a clearer explanation can quickly turn the situation around. Phrases like, "I'm sorry if my words caused any confusion. Let me rephrase that to make sure we're on the same page," can go a long way in easing tensions and demonstrating your commitment to effective communication. Asking for clarification is another crucial step. Often misunderstandings arise from assumptions, whether it's assuming that everyone has the same interpretation of a phrase or that certain norms are universal. Instead of letting the conversation continue under a cloud of confusion, politely ask the other person to explain what they understood and where things may have diverged. This gives you an opportunity to correct any misconceptions and ensure both parties are aligned moving forward. Phrasing your clarification request in a neutral and respectful manner is crucial. For instance, "I think there may have been a miscommunication. Can you help me understand what you took away from that?" This approach focuses on resolving the misunderstanding without assigning blame or causing embarrassment. Additionally, it's important to view misunderstandings as learning opportunities rather than setbacks. Every time a communication issue arises, it provides a chance to gain deeper insights into the cultural perspectives and communication preferences of the other person or group. Reflect on the situation afterwards. What caused the misunderstanding? Was it due to a difference in communication styles, language barriers, or cultural assumptions? By identifying the root cause, you can better prepare for future interactions and become more effective in navigating cross-cultural dynamics. Over time, these learning opportunities accumulate, helping you become a more adaptable and cultural competent communicator. In some cases, misunderstandings may not be immediately apparent, the other person might hesitate to voice their confusion or discomfort, especially in cultures where maintaining harmony or saving face is highly valued. In these instances, it's important to stay attuned to non-verbal cues such as body language or changes in tone, which can indicate that something is amiss. If you sense that there's a misunderstanding, gently check in with the other person by asking open-ended questions that encourage them to share their thoughts. For example, do you feel comfortable with the way things are moving forward? I want to make sure we're both on the same page. In resolving misunderstandings, it's also helpful to propose constructive ways to move forward. Once you've clarified the issue and ensured that everyone understands each other, suggest solutions or adjustments to avoid similar problems in the future. This could involve tweaking communication methods, such as switching to written communication for complex topics or scheduling more frequent check-ins to ensure alignment. By providing proactive steps to address the root causes of the misunderstanding, you demonstrate a commitment to improvement and show the other person that you value the relationship. For example, if a project milestone was missed due to different interpretations of a deadline, you could suggest implementing a more detailed timeline with clear, agreed upon checkpoints. This not only avoids future misunderstandings, but also fosters trust by showing that you're invested in making communication smoother for everyone involved. So a quick tip, if you're working in a team environment, consider establishing a culture where misunderstandings are expected and addressed openly. Encourage your colleagues to speak up when something isn't clear and model this behaviour by doing the same yourself. When everyone feels comfortable acknowledging confusion and seeking clarity, it can lead to a more collaborative and supportive atmosphere where misunderstandings are viewed as opportunities for mutual learning. In some cases, cultural misunderstandings can touch on deeper issues such as differing values or worldviews. When this happens, it's important to handle the situation with sensitivity and a willingness to learn about the other person's perspective. Approach these conversations with curiosity and respect, asking questions to understand their point of view without making judgments. This not only helps resolve the immediate issue, but also fosters deeper connections by showing that you're genuinely interested in understanding their culture. Always follow up after an incident to ensure the misunderstanding is being cleared up and to reinforce that you value the relationship. Reflect on what went wrong and consider it a chance to improve your cultural understanding. Missteps, when handled gracefully, can even strengthen relationships as they show openness and a commitment to learning. As we wrap up this episode and indeed season 4, I encourage you to reflect on your own communication practices and consider how you implement these strategies to improve your cross-cultural interactions. The ability to communicate effectively across cultures is not just a professional asset, it enriches personal experiences and broadens your perspective. Thank you for tuning into season 4 of Your Path to Career Success. I hope you found this season valuable and insightful. Remember, we'll be back with season 5 on October the 16th, so mark your calendars. If this episode and other episodes lit a fire within you, hit that subscribe button, share the love with a review, and spread the wisdom with your friends and co-workers. Alternatively, follow me on LinkedIn, Catherine Hall, The Career Hour. Until then, keep striving for success and embracing the opportunities that come your way.